It was great to be back out at 49ers practice, where the highlight was Brock Purdy connecting deep with Mike Evans. Training camp session number 1 in the books. This is the first helmet update, and Kyle Shanahan made a cameo on the practice field today. Watched for about 30 minutes. Why don't we take a look at some of the highlights, some of which were observed by Shanahan himself. Yes, that is Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, paired again. Greenlaw's first training camp practice back with the 49ers. Chris Kasarik, defensive line coach, next to Greg Scruggs, the assistant D-line coach. We'll talk a little bit about scheme after we discuss how good Nick Bosa is looking. Trent Williams even said that Nick Bosa looks better than he did before he tore his ACL. He's going to be worked back into practice. Already in practice, Mike Evans. Caught that deep ball from Brock Purdy. There's Chris Furster, who is technically running these practices as the interim head coach while Kyle Shanahan recovers from the injuries suffered in that car accident. Here's a look at the rest of the 49ers receivers. Ricky Pearsall, Dejon Stribling, Jacob Cowing, Christian Kirk in there. Kirk exited practice today with an apparent injury, but they hope that it's not serious. That is Kalon Black, rookie running back. More from Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. I went over to the side of the field with the 49ers linebackers to see that pairing back in action. And there's Nick Martin, maybe the future of that room. 49ers traded for Osa Odighizuwa this offseason. Here he is warming up. As you can tell, a lot of star players on the field for the 49ers. Here are the 2 starting cornerbacks, Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green. San Francisco this season, though, there is plenty of A-list talent on this football team. And here's one of the big fish, Trent Williams, who, by the way, said that he just found out about Kyle Shanahan's accident yesterday, just like almost all of us. Sebastian Valdez, the Hulk, I think that he's going to make this football team. That's my early prediction. The 49ers re-signed Kevin Givens today to take Evan Anderson's spot, so old friend defensive tackle Kevin Givens in on the mix for the 49ers. And yeah, we'll take one more look at Nick Bosa, who's working so well for San Francisco. Remember that he spent the entire offseason here at the team facility. And, you know, since it's the first helmet update, we can give you guys a little bit of a lay of the land. There's the helmet. There are the banners. It is the 80th anniversary, and as you can see, I could take a step further. Joe Montana and company on Jerry Rice, Steve Young, on some of the banners around the stadium as the 49ers do honor that anniversary. But anyway, back to the helmet. Brock Purdy looked sharp today. Not surprising at all, but that deep heave to Mike Evans, you know, they're fans at most of these training camp sessions, and that drew the loudest oohs and ahs of the practice. Evans just so effortlessly seems to get open. And George Kittle talked about that over the course of OTAs. Mike Evans just making play after play after play. I mean, I just spoke of Jerry Rice. There are only 2 receivers in NFL history who have notched 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Jerry Rice and Mike Evans, who connected with Brock Purdy on that deep pass today. Ricky Pearsall also looks to be in really good shape. He was putting in tough work this offseason, including some running in Central Park in New York City that he posted on social media not too long ago. Ricky was open on a deep ball today, and Purdy put the ball in there very, very well. Again, it was another really nice deep ball from Brock Purdy. But Malik Mustapha stole the show. And we're going to be talking a lot about the 49ers safeties because that is an important competition over the course of this training camp. Mustapha came over from center field and showed explosiveness that he definitely did not have last year. Remember, he tore his ACL in the final game of the 2024 season. He came over from center field and made this leaping swipe at the football and knocked it away. It was the most impressive pass breakup of the day. Ruined a deep pass from Brock Purdy to Ricky Pearsall. Dejon Stribling, 49ers rookie wide receiver, not a first-round draft pick, but their first draft pick. First pick of the second round, number 33 of the 2026 draft. He made a couple nice catches today, including one on a deep out pattern and then one kind of in the seam to end practice. And he had a lunge for it moving forward. There was only a narrow window for the ball to travel, but Dejon Stribling, who absolutely does look the part size-wise, did make a couple nice catches today. Remember, Dejon only dropped one pass all of last season for Ole Miss. This is a guy who has very, very good hands. I think a high floor top pick for the 49ers because of the fact that he's played in so many different systems, from Washington State to Oklahoma State to Ole Miss, used differently at all three of his stops, held onto the football at all three of his stops, and was able to use his physicality to block. Especially at Ole Miss, he was able to do that in Lane Kiffin's offense. So the 49ers really, really excited about Dejon Stribling. Fred Warner back today. And Fred, he spoke to the media, so did Trent Williams. Fred, third play in, made the tackle. You're not allowed to bring guys to the ground, but he swarmed on that third play of this practice. He got Jordan Watkins, who caught a little short pass from Brock Purdy, but it would have only been a minimal gain. Fred was fired up. And remember that Fred was healthy throughout essentially all of the offseason. He was almost ready to come back for the 49ers during the playoff run in earlier this year in 2026, but at the end of the 2025 season. We were talking about that recovery progress as being borderline miraculous. So Fred got a whole offseason of training in, but he had to chomp at the bit before he could actually get back out onto the practice field. And today, officially, in a full-speed team drill instead of in a glorified walkthrough, which are OTAs, Fred Warner was able to get out there and he was fired up. Now, Fred talked about this, and so did Trent Williams. Williams has to play against the defense. Fred Warner essentially captains the defense. It's looking a lot different schematically than in the past, and we expected this under new defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, but Trent's actual quote was, "Everything looks different." There was a play early on where Romello Height, who's the 49ers' second-round pick, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech, played for 6 different schools, he split off into coverage. He was trying to cover CMC, and Christian McCaffrey, who's got a lot of juice, was able to just run a little bit of a cutback move after catching the football and turn up the sideline. It was impressive. We know that Christian McCaffrey's impressive. He looks fully healthy. The first play today was a handoff right to Christian McCaffrey. He's still going to get a lot of touches, hopefully, for the 49ers' sake. Kalen Black can reduce that workload. Maybe Jordan James can help reduce that workload as well. But still, Romello Height covered Christian McCaffrey. I mean, that was the assignment on the play. And that goes into what we expect and what we now have confirmed that Raheem Morris is going to be adding to this 49ers defense, which are 5-man fronts with some 3-4 properties, which mean that there are some outside linebacker type of coverage actions from the edge rushers. Now, of course, do not expect the 49ers to exclusively use Romello Height in coverage. The guy, I think, is a pass rusher first, but he was effective, especially because of his speed, the way that he can eat up grass. That's what Chris Kasarik said over the course of OTAs. He was effective on occasional cover drops in college, and the 49ers are certainly going to use those to diversify what they're bringing against opposing offenses. Fred Warner and Trent Williams both noted that much of the league has adopted the variations that Raheem Morris is bringing to the table. The 49ers have had to run against 5-man fronts quite a bit, and that's compromised the 49ers run game. It's actually been effective in several instances. So now 2 things are going to happen. The 49ers are going to be able to throw those 5-man fronts, that defensive line variability at opposing offenses with more frequency. But 2, their own offense, so Trent Williams and company, they're going to be able to face that type of defensive front and the new additions to the entire scheme, the new coverages that Raheem Morris has brought into the mix. They're going to be able to face that during practice of training camp, and that should make the 49ers a little bit more prepared for what Morris is bringing to the table. Today, I talked about Malik Mustapha. He was all over the field. I was very impressed with how well he was moving on the defensive side of the ball. I think that Malik Mustapha and Jair Brown are the 49ers' 2 leaders in the clubhouse to start at safety, but obviously we need to continue to glean more from what Raheem Morris is going to want and which players he's going to like to be the essential quarterbacks of his defense. The safeties, it's so important that they're on top of everything, especially from a communication standpoint, because unlike Fred Warner, they can see everything unfolding in front of them. They're playing a little further back. I've also talked about the fact that Morris is probably going to look at this in terms of roles more than specific positions on defense, and you'll probably see some shifting there. Talk about adaptability and variability. Upton Stout could effectively play matchup safety for the 49ers. So defensive evolution, a good and necessary thing for the 49ers, but I always go back to big number 97. You need Nick Bosa in there to make sure that you up the sack count from last year. They were league low 20 sacks. They were a borderline top 5 defense when Bosa is available, and then obviously they turned into a long shot for the Super Bowl after he got hurt. Still made it to 13 wins, which I think makes so much of the preparations for this 2026 49ers season so exciting. If you can win 13 games, even without Nick Bosa and Fred Warner available, and there are a whole heck of a lot more injuries on top of that, you can be a team that makes serious noise moving here into 2026. Mac Jones, he's really fun to watch all practice. If you just track Mac Jones, if somebody just put a camera on Mac Jones all practice, I think it'd be very, very entertaining. Today he threw a couple picks. I'm not sure either of them were his fault, though. One, the backup linebacker Garrett Wallow broke up a pass to Jordan Watkins, knocked it up in the air. Jalen Graham intercepted it. And the other, I'm not sure if the intended receiver was supposed to break in instead of out, but it was a Marquise Siegel interception, another guy who's going to be in that safety conversation, where Jones just threw the ball to Siegel on that right hash with no receiver in sight. So probably a miscommunication on day one. Not sure if that was the fault of the quarterback or the receiver, but it honestly doesn't matter all too much as long as the 49ers do get that fixed. That's what training camp is all about, is getting stuff like that fixed. I mean, Romello Height jumped offside earlier in practice. That's also something that you want to get fixed if you're the 49ers, but we're still so early in camp. This was literally day one. The 49ers are going to do things a little bit differently as far as the schedule this year. Instead of 3 days on of practice, 1 day off, which had been the previous rhythm to allow players to recover, the 49ers will only be 2 days on, followed by a jog through that won't be open to the media, followed by another practice, followed by a day off. So essentially 1 jog through, practice, day off for the 49ers over the course of this first block. Today, there was one more injury that I haven't told you about yet. I said that Christian Kirk walked off the field. Not sure exactly what his issue is. Vederian Lowe, the swing tackle whom the 49ers signed this offseason, formerly of the New England Patriots. Vederian Lowe hurt his ankle on a play, was sitting down for a while, then he got up, did not return to practice. Chris Foerster, the interim coach for the 49ers, at least the guy who's addressing the media right now for San Francisco, it's a team effort to replace Kyle Shanahan. Chris Foerster said that he hopes it isn't too serious for Vederian Lowe. Speaking of that 49ers offensive line, Connor Colby, I have him as maybe my new favorite to start at left guard. I know it's between Colby and Robert Jones, the veteran at left guard. Colby's the second-year player. Trent Williams talked a lot about how Colby has developed a lot of confidence from year 1 to year 2, so now he can play his best now that he mentally has started to grasp a lot of what the NFL is giving him. So it's obviously going to be between Colby and Robert Jones. The 49ers will probably give both of those guys first team opportunities. We'll see how it works over the course of training camp, but it seems to be a lot of hype and good vibes surrounding Connor Colby, who wasn't very good last year when he was thrust into action for the 49ers at guard. But as a rookie, you don't expect much. Dominic Pooney probably really exceeded what folks thought would happen. In 2024, when he was a rookie, Connor Colby could not play at that level, but the 49ers certainly think that he could be strong for San Francisco at that left guard position. So we're going to keep our eyes on that. Curtis Rourke took his first training camp snaps, 49ers QB3, wearing the number 14. That's what Brock Purdy once wore when he was a rookie before he switched to the 13. We'll see how much action Curtis Rourke does get. Most of the snaps are going to go to Purdy, and they're going to go to Mac Jones over the course of this training camp. But things will pick up. Pads, obviously not yet on. There's a 5-day acclimatization period that is required before this turns into more of a contact session. So not really able to read all too much into anything specific that happens. I could just show you guys the highlights, tell you who looks good physically, and right now Bosa is the guy who is popping off the screen. All in all, the takeaway is that the 49ers have a ton of talent out on that field. George Kittle was out there as well. Obviously begins training camp on PUP, but he was very enthusiastically cheering his teammates on, and he should be back sooner rather than later given the speed of that recovery. So even without considering George Kittle, who's obviously one of this game's great superstars, the 49ers have a lot of talent out there. I would say the most A-list pillars that they've had under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch throughout the entire tenure. I mean, they've also added Osa Odighizuwa into that defensive tackle position, and then Bosa wearing more of an old school helmet, by the way. We'll see if he keeps that on once he actually starts practicing. But Nick Bosa, a massive, massive anchor for that 49ers defense, with Fred Warner obviously excited to be back. But if you got Purdy and Mike Evans and Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams and a lot more, Kyle Juszczyk, can't forget him on that offensive side, that you've got a chance to be a top 3 offense. And if you've got Bosa and Fred Warner and Osa Odighizuwa and Deommodore Lenoir, well, you've got a chance to be a top 10 defense. And if you could put those two things together, you're not only a Super Bowl contender, you're one of the Super Bowl favorites. I mean, the path is clear for the 49ers. So no wonder Kyle Shanahan wanted to get back out there. Mustache, glasses, he had a cast on his lower left arm, but outside of that, couldn't really tell that Kyle Shanahan had been in an accident, 13 days ago. So that's really good news for the 49ers. Clay Kubiak calling the plays just as he has had in previous camps for the time being. It looks like Shanahan can be back sooner rather than later. You can knock on wood, though, and continue to pray for his recovery. The concussion and its recovery, those can be tricky things, especially when it's bright outside, and I think Kyle's probably limited to 20 to 30 minutes out here in the sunshine of Santa Clara. Good first day of practice. I'm going to be giving you guys these updates every single day, or every single practice for the 49ers here from the helmet. The very best updates that exist. We've been doing them for years now, and hopefully they're getting better and better. And hopefully you hit that subscribe button and hit the like button. A comment helps too. We'll talk to you soon from the helmet.